Let's talk about break-even analysis. It's important to put some preliminary numbers together when you are doing your break-even analysis so that you can take your time in brainstorming to make sure you've covered all of the different areas of focus. It'll help you increase accuracy and you won't come back and go, oh, I completely skipped that area. It also lets you know what you're going to need to do additional research on. How much is that specific piece of equipment going to cost, etc. Your final numbers may let you know that this isn't going to be a business plan idea that works, and you may need to step back or make some adjustments. Once you have the topics that you're going to be working on, you're ready to start looking at the numbers. You'll need to have some detailed information for some of the numbers, tools, for example, for Honeydew, to be able to know what is going into that purchase list. Supplies, on the other hand, you don't have to get into how much are staples, how much are paper towels. You can just list some general criteria areas and the overall costs for each. We're not going to get into specific marketing details at this point. We'll do that at another step in the business plan process. For now, you just need to determine a month and a year budget for your marketing. Once you have some preliminary information down and you have those categories, you do your research and you make them as accurate as possible. That way you are able to address the specific areas. Tools, for example, I've allotted $250 a month. That accounts for any possible breakage, and it allows for some to go into savings for the future purchases of larger items if it's not spent that month on something that needs to be purchased. Supplies is likely to adjust depending upon needs as the business progresses, and it's important to know that all of these numbers are soft. As you keep going, you may need to make some adjustments. If you don't have a preliminary budget in mind, I encourage you to go for $1,200. That way it's a nice even $100 a month and you can work from there. In some areas, computer for example, you aren't necessarily working on something that you're buying at that moment. In this case, you're saving for a computer down the road because you want to be able to have those funds in place ready for that purchase. So we assume that the computer will have a 5-year lifespan. We're going to budget for 4 years just in case. So $1,200, the cost of the computer system, divided by 4 for 4 years is $300 per year is what we need to save. Breaking that $300 into months, 12 months is $25 a month. So for year we list $300, month $25. Depending upon your personal goal, you may not choose to take an owner withdrawal every month. It really is up to you. But if you are going to do some owner withdrawal in a year, you'll average that out and put that guesstimate in that monthly column. Once you have those costs listed and you've had a chance to do research to make sure that they're as accurate as possible, then you're ready to move forward. And as you're moving forward, you want to determine what the startup costs that you're going to have are going to be. And startup costs are things that expenses that you incur prior to the first day of business. So in this case, we're planning to invest $7,000 in the purchase of tools. And in the appendix of your business plan, you'll list the tool, where it's going to be purchased from, and the cost that's associated with that item. With supplies, once again, it's more of just a general category. With marketing, we have $2,000 listed as our prior to opening, our startup marketing costs. We don't have to get into the absolute details, but we will provide some overview as to how those funds are being spent, and we'll talk about that in another business plan step. We're buying a computer before we start the business, so there is that initial $1,200. And then we're doing 2 months of owner withdrawal prior to the start of the business, putting that into the bank, which is giving the owner 2 months to build enough clientele so that they can work forward in the business, making enough money to be profitable. After you have all of your expenses in place, and we're not going to deal with how you're paying back or coming up with the startup funds. That will be another business plan step as well. Right now we just want these expense lists down. So the next area of focus is the personal decisions that you're making related to the business and the amount of time that you are investing versus the amount of money you're expecting to get back in exchange for that time. So in the case of Honeydew, planning to work 7 hours per day, and we're only including the hours that are billable or that contribute to income producing. 5 days per week, 4 weeks per month. Yes, there could have been 4.3, but in this case, Honeydew has decided that there'll be just a few extra days off per year. So the total hours per month available, 140, given these personal decisions. We've already looked at the expenses as being $2,575, so we plug that in here. And then we are able to determine what we have to charge per hour in order to meet our expenses. So in order to bring in $2,575 within 140 hours, we have to charge at least $19 per hour. That's our break-even point. So we have to charge that just to stay afloat. We know that the market and that customers are willing to pay more, and we know that competition charges more. So we average all of that into being about charging $25 per hour. For the same number of hours, that brings us to $3,500, so approximately $1,000 more. You want some leeway between those two numbers because it allows you to have some fudge factor if you did miscalculate or forgot to include something. In our next video, we're going to use an Excel spreadsheet to walk through the various steps that we've just gone over and include the cost of goods should we be working with a product-based business.